Welcome to this webinar. I'm Didrik Pinte, CTO at Enthought, and today I'm going to present you a tour of our latest Python solution for the enterprise. We'll be mostly focused on three products, the Enthought Python distribution, the Enthought Canopy, and the Enthought Deployment Server. Through this webinar, I'm going to show you how they've been integrated in a sort of tight way. But first, the agenda for today. So I'll start with a very quick introduction of Enthought and what we do, who we are, the kind of service we provide, and after that we'll directly do a deep dive in the Enthought Enterprise Python stack, really focusing on what does it do and who is it for. This will go through a number of updates on the products I've just listed a minute ago, so focusing on the Enthought Python distribution, the features of the Enthought Deployment Server and how they get connected with the Python distribution, and finally, how Canopy 2.0 that we released 2 months ago are integrated with the Python distribution and the deployment server. We'll finish with a Q&A session. So Enthought started in 2001, focused on scientific computing solutions. And so over the past 15 years, we really made the company evolve around this, being a leader in scientific analytic computing. So we started as a consulting company, and starting developing a number of side activities initially to support the consulting, activities like training and building a software stack. So if we want to summarize what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, so we're building solutions for artificial intelligence-enabled solutions for oil and gas, manufacturing, aerospace, biotechnology, and more. So it's a little bit like cross-industry. In order to support our consulting, we really needed to provide and train our target end users, so that are scientists, analysts, engineers, so non-developers most of the time, training them to use the scientific computing stack. And so for that reason, we built a quite large training group there that basically focuses on delivering training solutions to the industry. At the same time, in order to support the solutions we were building, we needed to have like a number of building blocks, robust building blocks that would allow us to provide either simple solution to customer up to, for example, FDA-approved applications. And so to that end, we started building small software blocks. And so that was the start of the Enthought Python distribution and the subsequent stack that we're going to talk about in a minute. We are headquartered in Austin, Texas, with an additional office in Cambridge, UK, and in India, located in Mumbai. So what does Enthought do? So I told you that we were initially a consulting company. So this is what you have on the right side of the slide there. So we've been solving technical computing problems really focused for scientists, engineers, and analysts. So this has been done over the industry, and so typically we have a mix of activities over, like, for example, like the energy industry, which is probably one of our biggest sector, manufacturing, chemical manufacturing, aerospace and defense, biotech, semiconductors, consumer product, finance, and more. To support the consulting, we have this training group that is there in the middle, so where we provide corporate, on-site, and open classes. Those classes can be live or virtual, and so we typically provide them like all over the world, but like mostly focused on the United States, Canada, and Europe at the moment. We started with a course, initial course on Python for scientists and engineers, and then extended that to a number of others, like Python for data science, Python for data analysis. Now we also have a course on mastering pandas and like some custom courses for our customers. Finally, on the left side, so we have built a software stack. And so the Enthought products are organized in two different areas. So first of all, the basic building blocks we really needed for supporting the consulting, and that by extent basically was also supporting our target customers. So that started with the Enthought Python distribution, and then in 2012, the Enthought Canopy integrated analysis environment, the deployment server, and then also connectors to help us interact with industry tools like Pixel, which is a Python connector for Excel, and the integration toolkit for LabVIEW. We also have dedicated software in the oil and gas industry with Virtual Core, for example, which is a digital geology software, or the Canopy Geoscience, which is more like of an AI and machine learning application for building like workflows in the geophysics area. So now that we have a brief introduction of Enthought and who we are, what we do, I'll dig into the details of our enterprise solutions. We can't start without, we have to start basically at the bottom of the stack. So the bottom of the stack is what we call the Enthought Python distribution. So for some of you probably heard about the Enthought distribution that started in 2004, which was a Python package distribution really tailored for scientific and analytic audience. And so that distribution really evolved from 2004 up to now. And the key focus of what it had to provide was a set of tested and pre-compiled Python packages that you could easily install and that would provide a completely robust environment. So if you have started doing some distribution of your own Python packages or building all your own Python packages, you know that there are like a lot of complex dependencies between them. Some of them require like specific compilers, some of them are working on some platforms, some don't, and so you really have to sort of fight to get a consistent set of packages. And so that's what Enthought wanted to solve in 2004 so that our consulting groups and our customers could basically benefit from that. And so if we fast forward what happened between 2004 and now 2017, we basically have added a number of features around that. So first of all, we need multiple kind of runtimes or versions of runtimes. So Python 2.7 is like one of the standard now with Python 3. And so right now, if you're in the industry, you probably need to have, in some case, some Python 3.5 runtimes, some Python 2.7 runtimes, maybe some 3.6 because you want to test and migrate. So having multiple runtimes was a critical feature. The second thing is that the set of Python packages for doing machine learning, artificial intelligence, data science, big data, and so on have exploded. So we need to support like more and more of those packages. So right now, we basically support on our supported runtime, so 2.7, 3.5, 3.6, about 450 plus packages. And the last thing, for providing robustness and efficiency, you also want to integrate some of the industry standards in terms of like efficient computing. And so, for example, this year in 2017, we also released a major upgrade of our MKL integration with the 2017 release of the NTL MKL, which was the fruit of an ongoing collaboration with Intel. So the Enthought Python distribution is still live. So even if it's not like very well visible, it's there. It basically is now completely available. All the packages are available for free for all users. And it can be accessed. How do you access that? You can access that either through the Canopy application or through the Enthought Deployment Manager that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Last but not least, so the important thing for us maintaining and developing the Enthought Python distribution is really our enterprise focus. So what we provide around the Python distribution is a dedicated enterprise support. So what we want is that our enterprise customers can basically trust what they run, make sure that they always have something that runs, and potentially can take an EPD and put that in different conditions. So that could be that would mean like properly deploying that on a cluster, deploying that within their AWS account or Google Cloud Engine, or potentially even go up to the point where you could. What I was saying was, yeah, the enterprise support can also go up to the point of like supporting embedded use case. If you need, for example, a Python runtime with a set of packages that basically runs within your, let's say, C++ or C# application. So those kind of things can also be supported over there. And finally, packaging support. So yeah, packaging can be a hell, especially in the Python world. So we also have some experts there to help companies like either solve their problem of packaging, or like we can build that for them and make that available. So this is the starting point. So one solid Python distribution which is available that can be deployed on like 16 different platforms, various runtimes, various backends. So we also support like PyPy and those other things like that. Now, how do you access that? So I told a second ago that we can either use Canopy or the new EDM command line package management. So that's what I'm going to talk about right now, and we'll start switching into use case mode, or live demo, so that you see how it works. So EDM is basically the next generation Python environment package manager from Enthought. For those of you that have used EPD in the past or Canopies, you probably have heard about npackage, which was the tool for installing packages, managing packages. That's now replaced by EDM. And so EDM can do exactly what an installer was doing, but with way more features. So what it does is managing multiple EPD installations, so you can now decide to deploy one or more Python environment on your machine. It's a command line interface by default, and it also acts as a client for the Enthought Deployment Server. So we'll talk about the deployment server in a minute, but basically from the command line, you can easily create multiple self-contained environments. You can manage your packages. It integrates completely rebuilt, refactored dependency solver. So nothing, it's basically completely new. It's not the one we had in installer. It also has been made to be easily usable in third-party programs. And so you probably see where I'm going here. So Canopy obviously is integrated EDM for its package management. So that was very important for us to have an API which was usable by third-party programs. By default, EDM supports like multiple Python versions, implementation, and even other languages. So if you want to have a Julia runtime, for example, we have one available over there. Finally, in terms of deployment, so it was important for us that getting EDM was fast, easy, simple, and compatible with like standards. So you have a very small distribution footprint, so it's about 10 megs for getting the binary file. It has native installers on Windows, OS X, for Red Hat and Debian. We also have like specific installers if you don't have, let's say, the credentials for installing that at the machine level. So there was a question from the group asking if EDM is analogous to conda package environment and environment management. You could, yeah, sort of. So in one sense, yes, it basically manages environments and packages. I would say the only difference in what it does, that for us the important thing was being backward compatible with all the things we've deployed in the past, and so and basically also solving the kind of problems that we see every day. And so they're like small differences. And so I'll talk about the bundle in a minute. I'll show you how we manage like reproducibility, for example. So they're like small differences, but it's pretty much in terms of feature set, they're very close. And is EDM a potential replacement for Canopy? So EDM is a command line tool. So if you need to deploy Python on a machine and you don't need any user interface like Canopy, or you want to use a different editor, like if you want to have Visual Studio, for example, or PyCharm or other editors like those ones, EDM would be a pretty good candidate for setting up your environments and managing your environments, but basically you would delegate all the user interface to the application of your choice. So it's not a replacement for Canopy, they really work together. And so depending on your needs, you might want to be very happy with EDM or very happy with Canopy, knowing that Canopy is basically using EDM behind the hood. Good. So if you're ready for seeing a live demo, so I'll basically switch into live demo mode. And try to show you how you can use EDM for doing useful stuff. So I just removed the slide there, and I told you EDM is a command line tool, so I'm opening a Windows command prompt here. You could do exactly the same commands on the other OSs, so if you're on OS X or Linux, so that's perfectly fine. So EDM is installed as a system application, so you basically get that on the command line, and what you can do there is starting managing your environments. So if you want to see your environments, you can ask for your environment list. And so by default, EDM comes with 0 environment, and it basically installs a small environment for its own work. Now, the idea of having multiple environments is that you can start now isolating some of the work you're doing into those environments and select the one you want when doing something. And so in my specific case, so I received from one of my colleagues a Python notebook, an IPython notebook, which basically does some facial classification in geophysics. So it's basically doing some machine learning to do classification, and I really want to like execute that code. And so the problem is now, how do I do that? Because I have strictly no clue like how to do it. So I basically have to open the notebook and detect like what are the dependencies there, so that I can create one Python environment that has the right dependency set. So there are multiple ways to solve that, but like that would be like something you receive that by email. You have to start doing that. So I can open. Yeah, I'll open it in a minute. So let's just say that this environment is this notebook requires. So I told you it's machine learning. So I'm going to install, let's say, pandas, scikit-learn, matplotlib because I'm going to do some plotting, and let's say seaborn because I want to have some very nice plots there. So I can so if I just type this, it's going to install the packages. Now what I want is I want to isolate my package into a given environment. So I will give a name to my environment, which is my data science project. And so now I'm doing that, it's basically fetching a runtime from the repository. I haven't said anything about a runtime. By default, EDM is going to use Python 2.7. Now I'll show you in a second how you can switch that to 3.5, 3.6. Once it has installed the runtime, it's going to fetch all the package from the repositories, and then based on the package set, it will show you, hey, so here is what I plan to install today. And so you see that there are a bunch of dependencies there that were computed by EDM, and this is the package set that I need if I want to do all that. So I'm going to say yes, please install that. Now it's fetching things from the server. This is going through the Enthought servers, retrieving everything, getting that locally. It's going to go into a package cache, and right now it's like not super fast because I'm like far away, not on a very good connection. I'll show you in a minute. If you switch to your own on-premise deployment server version, it's going to go way faster. So while it's installing, I'm just going to check if there are questions. There's a question about on Windows, can EDM run on PowerShell? Definitely, and so it has like a decent PowerShell integration, so for completion and those kind of things. So yeah, obviously it can work over there. And I forgot to install one thing here. I've installed pandas, scikit-learn, matplotlib, and seaborn, but I don't have the Jupyter notebook that I need, so I'm going to add that to my environment in a second. So now it has fetched all the packages, and then it's basically doing all the install, potentially removing if there's a need for removal. Good. Now that my environment is created, you see that EDM provides you information saying, hey, so if you want to use that environment, you need to activate it. And so if you want to activate the environment, EDM proposed like an easy way to do that. So you can ask, hey, create an EDM shell with the environment that I have created, like DS project, and you can exit that afterwards. Now you don't have to do that. You can also just stay in a non-activation mode. You can easily switch from one to the other and so on. Now I'm just going to add also my notebook so that I can start it. The idea would be that I can test that. So install notebook into DS project. That's going to get all the Jupyter notebook dependencies. And I will start a new command line there just on the side. You see that I have a Jupyter notebook typically comes with a number of dependencies there. And that's one of the key things here is you really don't want, as a user, I don't want to know like all those sort of subtle dependencies there, all the versions. You just want to have something that runs. In this case, I just asked for a random pandas version and let's say random scikit-learn version. And so the dependency solver has done the work to make sure that I have basically a consistent package set that they all work fine together. You could see a case where, for example, the notebook you receive has been done with scikit-learn 0.18, and right now the scikit-learn I have is 0.19, I think. So if you want to switch from one to the other, dependency solver will have to downgrade potentially a bunch of other packages or upgrade some of them or install new ones and things like that. So those are all the things that the dependency solver are going to manage for you. So while it's finishing the installation here, so in my second terminal, I'm just going to create a shell for, so where I activate my data science project environment. just going to do that here so that I can start my Jupyter notebook now. Jupyter notebook. Which will allow me to look at my notebook. So by default it's start Edge, and then I can go on my desktop, open the FASIS classification, and I want to have my SVM notebook. So if I did everything right here, I can now just execute all the cells from the notebook and reproduce what my colleague did. Here's it. So it's starting the kernel. Kernel is ready. You see the notebook was coming with a lot of things. I'm not going to go to details here, not really interesting for the webinar. But so if I re-execute all the cells, now everything should work fine. I'm not going to do that because it takes a little bit of time. It's just for the sake of the example here. So great, now I have an environment, and the environment is running. Perfect. What if now I want to have the very same thing with Python 3.5? Because the code was, the code must be compatible or something like that. Now you can go back to your command line here, and in place of creating the project just by giving a name, you can also say that the version is equal to 3.5.2, for example. Now it's going to do the very same thing, which means installing an entire environment, and it's going to shout here because the name is the same as the other one, so I do dash 3.5. And probably can't read that. Just do this. So now I'm installing pandas, scikit-learn, matplotlib, seaborn into a new environment named DS project 3.5, and the version is Python 3.5.2. And so that's just going to execute everything and make that work. So that's how simple it is to switch from one to the other. If you look at the help, you're going to see like the full details about all the parameters you can pass there. So if I do edm install -- help, you'll see that you can pass the version, the implementation, the architecture. So if you're on Windows 32-bit, for example, you can switch and so on. So all those things are quite important. So now I can create multiple environments. That's quite nice. One thing that we see and which is quite important for us is the ability to make things reproducible. So if I'm taking right now, for example, the dependencies that I used, I have no guarantee that the scikit-learn version and the patterns version that was used by my colleague are exactly the same. He could send me, let's say, a message saying, hey, I've used pandas latest one and then scikit-learn 0.18, for example. Or it could do much better. Yeah, some of you might have heard about requirements file. Requirements file are good in some cases, but they basically don't solve all the problems, and so sometimes they basically cause some other issues. So what we added to the EDM environments is the ability to export what's called a bundle. And so I'll show you what a bundle file is. So if I want to export, so EDM environments, I can export, and I'm going to export my DS project. So if you pass no information like this, it's just going to export that on the CLI, which basically is not exactly what you want. So you can pass a -f and say dsproject.bundle. And we have two metadata versions right now for the bundle. I'm going to use the version 2, which is the latest one that we released last month. 2.0, sorry. So that created a file here on my file system, which is a JSON file. Let me go to C users, dpinte. Where is it? DS project bundle. Let me open that with just use the notepad, for example. And so what this contains, and I'm going to start at the bottom first. First of all, it contains the information about which runtime was used. So in this case, I know exactly which version, which platform ABI, which platform. I also have the SHA-256 basically of the runtime itself. So even if you had some server compromise, so you could even check that the runtime you're going to use, or you can export and import that thing, is exactly the right one. And then we do the same for all the packages. And you see that, for example, we're using the Tornado package, which comes from the repository Enthought free. And so we have this version, and this is the SHA-256 of the archive. And so by doing this, now I have a way to reproduce the very same environment as my colleague. So there was one other thing that we added like not so long ago is the provenance. So where is the package coming from? So the repository basically that provided us with a package. Because if you have like, two repositories that are available that you can access to and the same package with the same version that are available in those two, you might end up in two crazy situations. So that's what a bundle is. So a very simple JSON file. Now that bundle can obviously go into your Git repo and be versioned. You can send that by email if you want to. We're basically going to add support for that in the deployment server very soon. But the bundle is not just for being created. You can also obviously use that for importing a new bundle. So if I do EDM and import my bundle, oh come on, and import -f ds project bundle, and then I can give it a name, ds project updated. And now we're doing what? It's just recreating the project as a different environment named DS Project Updated, which basically contains sort of exactly the same thing. You'll see it's going to go much faster here because it doesn't have to fetch the packages anymore. So no fetch, all cached. So this is for the bundle feature, and then there is another important thing that we added in the bundle feature is you can export the bundle as a JSON file, but you can also ask the bundle to export all its assets with it. So this is really nice if you want to push something to an offline system that doesn't have access to anything. And so you can create a bundle that contains the runtime and all the packages that are related to that, so that you can now do an import of that bundle on a completely offline machine without access to the network. And that's what we call data bundles. And so it's pretty nicely documented in the EDM documentation. Good. So that was a very brief introduction to EDM. If you want to know more about it, so there is a pretty good documentation online. Now I see that I'm definitely behind on time, so I'll switch to the deployment server. The deployment server is that product that basically lives behind EDM, the one that provides all those packages, provides a runtime. It also provides the access control, so it basically allows some of our users to upload packages, some others can't, some others can view some content of the deployment server but not download that. So it basically is this software product that allows us to basically provide packages to the entire Enthought ecosystem, but you can also now get that product on site and get your private secured version of deployment server, which basically is, so the key idea of that product, it was to be installed behind a firewall or even potentially air-gapped. Get a connection, if you're firewalled, you can get a connection with synchronization basically from the Enthought master repositories, so that every new package that gets into that one can directly be synchronized with your local version of that. Secure on-site version of all that with synchronization. To be secured, it basically has to integrate with your authentication and authorization system, so it can basically use LDAP or AD as a source of connections for credentials and authorizations. On that deployment server, you can also create your own private repositories for organizing how you're going to share your packages internally. So there is a notion of organization with teams, and teams basically have access to repositories, and each team access to repository basically can be either at a view level, upload level, or only download level. So you can basically tweak all that. And so finally, the deployment server was also, it was very important for us that it can be sort of implemented into organization and fit with all the different kind of development workflows that you could think about. So is it like for deploying on your clusters, or deploying on your continuous integration system like Jenkins, TeamCity, or integrated with things like Adveyor or Travis CI. So all those use cases are definitely supported, and so at Enthought, we use them every day for our own, basically, development. So if you want to sort of switch to using the deployment server with EDM with the kind of demonstration I made a minute ago, so it's very, very simple. The only thing you have to do is tweaking the configuration file for EDM and just say, hey, here is my local deployment server. So I'm just now switching back to live demo mode. And I'll show you one thing, which is EDM has a default configuration file, which is called .edm.yaml, which lives in the user home directory. So again, it's a very simple JSON file. By default, you have something like this, which is, it defines a store URL, which is the deployment server you're using, and then the list of repositories that you want to use, plus authentication potentially, plus some other stuff if required, like a proxy and things like that. So I could either change by default, or so EDM is quite nice at allowing you to configure different things. And so I'm going to create a separate YAML file which contains my local configuration. And so in this one, you see that my store URL here, it points to a local IP address, and I'm using 2 repos, and I have like a special authentication token for like managing all the connection with the server. So if I use now EDM and I pass my local configuration file, which is called EDM, EDM local, and I do, for example, just a check connection to verify that it works as expected. Now you see that I'm connected locally, and so all the various commands that I was doing before, I can now just tweak them and just pass my local configuration and do exactly the same. So if I want to upgrade or downgrade something or install a new package or something like that, so all that is going to work fine. So now if I run my command so I'm just going to install the 3.5 version of all this, so EDM local.yaml. So I'm installing pandas, scikit-learn, matplotlib, seaborn into DS project 3.5, so a Python 3.5 version of my -- version is equal to 3.512. You'll see that the fetching, oh, is that happy? Yeah, that's because it's YML and not YAML. Look. So the fetching now is like going like quite fast. So it's like that's the extraction now. So basically getting a local deployment server is, if you're deploying a lot, so you really have a gain when you need to quickly deploy for like continuous integration, something like that. It can be pretty effective. So yes. So while it's installing, I'm going to do a second thing is I'm going to add a new repository to my configuration so that I can now look for specialized packages that I would have on my server. So my customer has an organization on the server, and it has a DS project repository that contains, let's say, a specific package for doing neural networks. And in this specific case, it's going to be a PyBrain package. And just by doing this, now I've added the repository in the list, so which means that EDM is going to resolve all that properly. So once it's going to be done here, I'll be able to just do a search and find my PyBrain package. Now I start benefiting from my local deployment server because I can have all those private packages that I create over there. And so PyBrain is not a private package per se. It's available on GitHub, but I just needed that version on my private repo, and so I can do all that there. Okay, right there. So now, how do I access my PyBrain? I just continue using the same thing. So I use my local configuration, EDM local.yaml, and if I want to search for PyBrain and see if it's available, you see that PyBrain 031 is available in the customer.ds project. if I was not using my local deployment server, so because we don't have that package on the Enthought repos, you would have an empty answer. So that's, and now if you see, hey, so I want to install PyBrain, obviously you just do install PyBrain, and let's install that into DS project. Now this is fetching from my local deployment server in the private repository, and I have my package installed now. In this specific case, my deployment server that I have here is basically connected to an LDAP server, so all the authentication is managed by LDAP. So there was a question about how we can handle packages that aren't in the Enthought package repo. So that's exactly what you can do here. So you can create your own private repository and package your what you want to see and have over there. So that could be your own packages or custom version of packages that are out there, and make them available in your private packages. Good. So I think that's a very brief presentation of the deployment server. If you want to know more about deployment server, so we had a webinar about it some month ago, and so there is a recording available which show you like all what you can do, like uploading packages, how you have to build your packages, how you create custom repositories, how you create teams, how you do the authentication, and so on. I'm happy to answer any question obviously there, but yeah, we can talk about the deployment server for definitely hours. So I'll switch now to the third product, which is connected to all that, which is Canopy 2. And so Canopy 2, so yeah, why the 2? The 2 basically is because we obviously made major refactorings of the Canopy product. And so the key thing was we wanted to have Python 3 available for Canopy. And so with the old infrastructure, it was definitely not possible. And I'm happy to get into technical details about that. That's probably for a technical discussion, not for a webinar. And so the smartest way and the fastest way to basically get Python 3 available in Canopy was to integrate EDM inside of Canopy, because EDM gives you access to multiple runtimes. If you have access to from Canopy to EDM, you can obviously have multiple runtimes. It was a little bit more complex than that, but that was one of the key drivers. And so thanks to the integration of EDM inside of Canopy, now Canopy has the ability to have multiple Python environment. It has Python 3 compatibility, so you can have a user environment which is Python 3 based. It also benefits from the bundle support that I showed you a minute ago. So if you were to create, for example, a bundle for your application, or you have let's say a data science bundle which supports the standard environment you have in the company and that you want all your analysts to use, you can basically give them the bundle, and Canopy can just ingest the bundle and create a new environment just for that, which is connected to Canopy, which is quite interesting in terms of like compliance and then standardization. The second thing that happened inside of Canopy was sort of reworking the package manager user interface that was like heavily used in the past to make sure that it can properly use the EDM dependency solver. So having a dependency solver is really nice. Because it ensures that you always have something that runs. Now, sometimes it basically put you into cases that can be frustrating for end users. For example, if you're asking for downgrading your pandas version, and this basically makes a number of other packages being downgraded, that might not be what you want, but basically that's probably what has to happen if you want to ensure that the environment runs. And so exposing a nice user interface for that, giving a decent user experience was quite important. And so the first version we have right now is good, probably not good enough. We want to make some more steps there to improve all the interaction with especially the dependency resolution and what you can do with that. But it's already there in Canopy 2.1 and definitely functional. Second thing that happened with Canopy 2 is basically sort of exposing a little bit more the ability to connect Canopy to external IPython kernel. And so the idea was that now you can use Canopy, connect to one of those kernels, and benefit from the variable browser, doing some live debugging sessions. And so some examples, like you could think about interacting with a pixel session, so within Excel, or we have the Canopy Geo product that basically embeds an IPython kernel, so we can use now Canopy for scripting that, for debugging it. And so we just connect to the remote kernel. Or potentially another more common use case would be if you're debugging a Jupyter notebook, the notebook, let's say, in some case, so Jupyter notebooks are great, but like for debugging, they're not exactly the right thing to interact with. And so what you can do there is just connect your Canopy installation to the running notebook, and now you can start doing some you can start debugging or seeing what variables are, which function is used, or those kind of things. And finally, we also added some stability improvement to debugger. So in action, and I'll try to go pretty quickly on that. I'll just show you how you can take one of those bundles and make them available in Canopy. Just show you the package manager integration. So once we have the bundle integrated, we'll just do use the package manager to downgrade pandas, for example. And finally, so EDM is integrated in Canopy, and so the CLI integration that Canopy provides is quite nice for end users that are not like really happy with command lines, and so that they have a pre-configured command line interface. So in a minute, or 2 minutes maybe more. So if you use the Canopy, that's the kind of interface that you've seen in the past. So now Canopy provides a new preference. So if you go to the preference and inside of the Python tab there, you'll see that you can now decide to use multiple, different kind of environment than the default user environment. So if you unclick here, you'll see that Canopy is going to show you all the EDM environments that are available to Canopy. And so at this stage, I only have the user environment, which doesn't really help me because I want to have my separate one. So now what I can do is I can just say, hey, create me a new environment. The name is going to be, let's see, another DS project. DS project. I can select my EDM bundle file, which by default Canopy provided with, let's say, full bundles so that you can replicate things like the Canopy, like a full EPD. But you can also provide your own. So here is my own bundle. And now it's basically installing everything, downloading the right eggs and so on, and doing all the installation on the machine. It's going to take a little bit of time. The user experience is improving, like with each version over there. You'll see that after I've created the environment, so right now I have to restart Canopy to switch to it. There is something we're basically fixing in the coming versions. Good. So now it's installed. So I finally can switch it and decide to use my new project there. So if I switch there, I basically have to restart Canopy for activating that. So now the environment is already created, which means that the EDM environment, which is inside of Canopy, can see that. So Canopy provides this command prompt integration. So if you start it, you're going to see that you directly have a command prompt that has the selected user environment activated. So which also gives you a full access to the EDM command line tools. So if I want to see the list of environment in my EDM configuration here, you'll see that it's going to list user, which is the default provided by Canopy, plus another DS project, which is the one I just used right now. So command line integration with direct access to the embedded EDM in Canopy. And finally, we talked about the package manager. I'm just going to start you and show you how things are organized over there. At the standard user interface level, so nothing has really changed. The only thing I'm going to show you is, first of all, when you go into the settings, you see that it basically has detected my local deployment server, and I see now like all the standard Enthought repositories that are synchronized with the system, but I also see my private repositories. The one, so if I add this DS project now here, which means that I can see like all my install packages, all the available packages, and from there I can start doing some upgrades, downgrades. I can select a given version. I can see what impact it's going to have before basically doing, for example, like reverting to an older version and so on. So that's a very brief overview of the package manager. So I think that's sort of concluding the presentation here in the webinar. So I just wanted to show you how the Enthought Python distribution with the new EDM clients are integrated with the Python the Enthought Deployment Server and Canopy there. to provide some sort of a consistent set of products where you can use for deploying reproducible and robust environments all over your organization. So that's, I think, the concluding words. So what are the next steps there? So first of all, so you can easily download Canopy or EDM on the Enthought website. So we basically added the 2 links over there. If you're interested about deployment server, so there are many interesting use cases for deployment there, and so you should feel free to contact us for a deployment server trial. And for some of you that have been in touch with us, so Michael Millet and Brian Allison would be very happy to